Every afternoon, as the first raindrops tapped against the roof, Emma would sit by her window, clutching a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. She didn't love the rain for its beauty. She loved it because it mirrored her, quiet, melancholic, and unnoticed. Outside, people scrambled for cover, their laughter echoing faintly through the downpour. Inside, Emma traced the rivulets of water sliding down the glass as if they were mapping out the story of her life. A story no one bothered to read. Emma was the kind of person everyone adored. At work, she was the spark in the room, cracking jokes that turned tense meetings into bursts of laughter. Her friends called her their sunshine on a stormy day because she always showed up when they needed her most. When her best friend Jake lost his job, she spent nights on the phone, reassuring him he'd bounce back. When her coworker Sophie was drowning in deadlines, Emma stayed late to help, even if it meant missing her own plans. She never said no. It was her unspoken rule. Others' happiness came first. But when the lights dimmed and the world went quiet, Emma was left alone with her thoughts. She'd sit in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with questions about the future. Will I always be like this? Will anyone ever stay for me the way I stay for them? The overthinking crept in like a thief, stealing her peace, leaving her tangled in doubts and fears. She worried she wasn't enough, too giving, too soft, too invisible. And the worst part? No one noticed the cracks forming inside her. It hadn't always been this way. Years ago, Emma had trusted deeply, loved fiercely. She'd been inseparable from Ethan, her boyfriend of 3 years. He'd called her his rock, his everything. She'd believed him, pouring her soul into their relationship, planning weekends away, surprising him with little gifts, being there through his darkest days. But one rainy night, she found out the truth. Ethan had been seeing someone else for months, a coworker he'd sworn was just a friend. Emma stumbled upon their messages by accident, her heart sinking as she read his words. Emma's too good for me. She'd never leave. I need someone who excites me. The betrayal cut deeper than any knife. She confronted him, tears streaming down her face, but he just shrugged. You'll be fine, he said. You always are. And then he walked out, leaving her standing in the rain, shattered. That wasn't the only blow life dealt her. A year later, her mother fell ill, an aggressive cancer that stole her away in months. Emma threw herself into caring for her, juggling hospital visits with work, hiding her grief behind a smile so her mom wouldn't worry. When her mother passed, Emma stood at the funeral, comforting her sobbing relatives, organizing everything, being the strong one, because that's who she was. But when the crowd dispersed, she knelt by the grave alone, rain soaking through her dress, whispering, "Why does everyone leave me?" The years that followed blurred together, a cycle of giving and losing. Friends drifted away, some because life got busy, others because they only called when they needed something. Jake, the one she'd stood by through thick and thin, stopped replying after he found a new girlfriend. Sophie, the coworker she'd saved countless times, got promoted and barely acknowledged Emma anymore. Each betrayal chipped away at her, but she never let it show. She kept laughing, kept helping, kept pretending. One stormy evening, her phone buzzed. It was Jake again. "Emma, I messed up. She dumped me. Can you come over?" Without a second thought, she grabbed her umbrella and trekked through the rain to his place. She sat with him in his dimly lit apartment, listening to him vent for hours. cracking jokes to lift his spirits. When he finally smiled, thanking her, she felt a flicker of warmth. But as she walked home, the rain seeping through her shoes, that warmth faded. Jake hadn't asked how she was. No one ever did. That night, Emma pulled out an old notebook and started writing. Her pen trembled as she poured out the words she'd buried for years. I'm always there for everyone, but no one's there for me. I make them laugh while I cry alone. I give everything, and I'm left with nothing. Tears blurred the ink, mixing with the sound of rain outside. She wrote about Ethan's betrayal, her mother's death, the friends who'd vanished. She wrote until her hand ached, until the pages were a mess of pain and honesty. The next day, she went to work as usual, flashing her signature grin, telling a silly story that had her colleagues in stitches. But when someone casually asked, "Emma, don't you ever get tired?" she paused, her smile faltering. "All the time," she said softly. "But who cares, right?" The room laughed, thinking it was a joke. She let them believe it. That evening, as the rain poured harder, Emma stood under her porch, watching the empty street. She thought of all the people she'd lifted up, all the times she'd swallowed her own hurt to ease theirs. A bitter question gnawed at her. If I disappeared, would anyone even notice? The wind howled, carrying her whisper away. She didn't wait for an answer. She turned back inside, shutting the door, letting the rain drown out the ache in her chest. But what Emma didn't know, what she couldn't see, was that somewhere out there, others stood under their own reins, feeling the same quiet despair. People who, like her, gave too much and got too little. People who were broken inside, waiting for someone to notice. And maybe, just maybe, the cruelest twist of all wasn't the loneliness itself, but the fact that she'd forgotten how to reach out, how to let herself be seen, how to believe she deserved more than the rain.
Take me back to an age when the world felt small.